So welcome to my book review for The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, the third book in the Dollars Western series. So this one is again by Joe Millard. Now if you want to check out my previous two reviews for A Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More, they should be in the Dollars Western Books playlist, along with an introduction to the series. So the synopsis for this one reads: The man with no name. His partner is the desperado Tuco, who turns vengeance into a sadistic contest of endurance. His adversary is the ruthless Sentenza, a killer who long ago lost count of the lives he has cut down. His goal is a $200,000 treasure in stolen army gold for which many have died and more will be killed. His secret is a dead man's final breath. More than once it has saved his life, and it will lead him to the treasure, if he can keep alive long enough to reach it. His reward, death, probably, from any one of 100 enemies. Betrayal, possibly, from the unpredictable Tuco. Defeat, perhaps, blazing from the Sentenza's custom-made pistol, or the gold that two armies in a legion of dead men have failed to reclaim. To the man with no name, the odds seemed almost favourable. So, the third book, what immediately struck us about this book was it was more or less the same length as the other two, the previous two books. Now anybody who's seen the film The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, he'll know that it's considerably longer than For a Few Dollars More and A Fistful of Dollars. So I immediately got to thinking that this book's been condensed, shortened, maybe a few scenes have been removed. Another thing which immediately struck us upon starting the book was the beginning is completely different to the film. Now if you've seen the film, you'll know that it starts off with a group of outlaws and they're walking towards each other in the street, and then they burst into a building and start shooting and Tuco jumps through the window. Well, this book starts completely different. It actually starts where the armoured convoy for the Confederate gold has been ambushed by the Union troops. Now in the film, this scene was only spoken of in dialogue. You never actually got to see it happen. But in the book, the author has actually put this scene into the story at the very beginning. And to be honest, I think it was probably a good way to start The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Obviously I like the scene we got in the film, the very start, but if this had been in its place, then I wouldn't have minded. I think it was a good scene. So the three main characters who are escorting the gold is Jackson, Baker and Mondrager. Now Baker in the film is the guy that Angel Eyes shoots through the pillow. Jackson is obviously revealed to be alias Bill Carson, and Mondrager is the fella that Angel Eyes goes to see at the beginning, where he's eating a bowl of stew and he shoots him under the table and then kills his family. So there's a good scene with the three main protagonists who hide the gold, which you don't see in the film, and I actually like that. I thought that was very well done. So after the alternative scene at the beginning, it does follow the film quite accurately. So the scene immediately after that is where Angel Eyes goes to visit Mondrager, and then it sort of follows the film from there. Now the three characters of Blondie, Tuco and Angel Eyes have, for some reason, well, two of them have been given different names. Blondie is now referred to as Whitey for some reason. Now, I don't know about you, but is that considered racist these days? I'm not sure, you tell me. But I just thought it was an odd choice. It was quite humorous, to be fair, but it was an odd choice. On account of his pale skin and his fair hair, Tuco refers to him as Whitey. I don't know why the author just didn't call him Blondie like in the film. And for some strange unknown reason, the man with no name's character changes from the hunter to the man with no name to the man from nowhere. So the author keeps swapping his name around a bit, and it's a bit jarring. I'm thinking, well, just pick one and stick to it. But maybe the author was just thinking, well, it'll get a bit repetitive if I keep calling him the same thing. So, I mean, that's just a minor quibble. It's not really a big deal. But the character of Angel Eyes has also been given a different name. So instead of being called Angel Eyes, in the book he's called Santenza. Now that sounds suspiciously like Sabata, which was a character Lee Van Cleef played in a different spaghetti western franchise. He played Sabata for 2 films. But maybe the author of this book was thinking of Sabata when he named Angel Eyes Sentenza. But apart from that, the characters for the most part are quite faithful to their counterparts in the film. But again, a lot of that dialogue has been changed considerably, just like I mentioned in the previous 2 books. And I'm not a big fan of the dialogue that they've given, particularly to the man with no name. I think it totally takes away from his character. But having said that, I'm kind of getting used to it in the books. I mean, I'm sort of coming to terms with separating the film version of The Man with No Name from the literary version. So to be honest, it didn't really bother as much this time around, because I'm like I say, I'm sort of getting used to it. So if you can read the book and sort of not necessarily picture Clint Eastwood in the role, then I don't think it's much of a problem. But as we know, Clint Eastwood was in the role, so you just can't help but make the comparison. So another thing which struck us about the book was, now when The Good, the Bad and the Ugly was first released, it was a European and an American print of the film. The Italian print was considerably longer and it had a lot more extra scenes. Now these scenes would resurface on the special edition DVDs a few decades later. But in the book, these scenes have actually been added, or at least some of them. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe the author has had access to the original scripts of the films and he's included the scenes that were later to surface on the extended editions. He's included them in the book. So if you read the book for the first time in the 1970s, you would have been treated to some scenes which you wouldn't have seen in the film. And I just thought that was a bit of a nice touch to add to the book. So, as I say, the book follows the film quite accurately, but the ending, oh boy. I mean, what can I say about it? It has been changed considerably, and I didn't like it. Unfortunately, towards the end of the book, the author, for some reason, turns Tuco into a cowardly, whining buffoon, and I thought that was a great injustice to the character of Tuco. So I have to say I didn't like the change to the end. As you well know, the end of the film is the 3 of the characters, the main protagonists, having the standoff in Sad Hill Cemetery. But in this book, that is completely changed. It happens a little bit like the film, but it is considerably different, and I didn't like that bit. But having said all that, as I've said with the previous 2 books, I enjoyed reading them. I thought they were interesting. I enjoyed the differences that the author has put into the book. Even though I didn't like the end, I still enjoyed reading it. It was a novelty. A couple of typing errors in the book makes some of the sentences a little jarring, but again, that's just a minor quibble. So would I recommend this book? Yes, I probably would. Like I say, it is an interesting read, and if you're out to collect the other books in the series, then obviously it'll be well worth having. And also, as I've said before, they're quite rare, these books now, and they're a nice set, so just for that reason alone, I would recommend getting the book. If you're out to just buy the book on its own, as I've said previously, for me, for a few dollars more review, then I wouldn't bother. But if you want to get the set, then yes, I would get it. So there's 5 more stories in the series. Now these are all original stories written by the various authors. So I don't think it matters which particular order you read them in, so I'm not really sure which one I'll read next. I'm going to have a little break from them because I've read 3 books on the trot in the last few weeks, and I'm going to give it a little break, and then I'll pick a one to start on, and then I'll do another review on it. So who knows which book will come next, but thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Adios, amigo.